Australians used to balance a healthy scepticism for our politicians with a begrudging respect.
I think I got
Now,
up to
if
the
you
point
believe
where I said
polls,
omniscient.
politicians are about as popular as, well,
I was going to ask you, Dr. Collins,
Malcolm
whether perhaps we
Turnbull's
should
not a
record
bad
Mr.
bloke. It seems
Reedy,
we can't wait
the
to
lip
get rid of
reader.
him, just like we ditched Tony Abbott and Rudd and Gillard without giving any of them much of a chance to be great.
For some people,
Maybe
any unwelcome
aspiring
findings will
PMs
be peremptorily
need to visit
dismissed.
the master.
The reasoning
Would you
process,
believe it's
including the drawing
25
of fine
years since
distinctions
Bob Hawke
based
held
upon the
the top
subtleties
job.
of the
Back
evidence,
then, we loved him
will be of
in
no
spite
interest.
of, or maybe because
This
of his
reaction is
imperfections,
inevitable given that,
including that he left
that
his
several
wife
observers
Hazel
have a
for
Rorschach
another
test
woman.
like
As you'll see
response
today,
to this
Bob's
controversy
more popular
and
than
fasten
ever,
doggedly
and still
upon the truth as
wonderfully
they
in
perceive
love
it.
with Blanche.
Their response is visceral
tell me when
because
I'm
the
going to do
truth
the
is
slate
revealed and
Getting
declaimed
paid
rather
for
than
this?
proven and explained.
Yes, union rate.
Some jump to predetermined
3/5 of
conclusions
5/8
because they
fuck
are
off.
supposed to be sceptical about complaints of sexual assault and hold stereotype
Blanche
beliefs
interview?
about the expected behaviour of
Take
rape
one.
victims,
Blanche
described
was
by
very good,
social
very
scientists as
professional.
rape myths.
And we should
Others
add
say
to the
they
cynics
believe
that,
all women surrendering their
you're not
critical
being paid for these
faculties
interviews.
I did it
by
for
embracing and acting upon a slogan
doing it
rising
all.
out of the Me Too movement. Some have predetermined views as to the existence or otherwise of a conspiracy to suppress a
We're
rape for
back to
political
start the
purposes.
story of Bob Hawke
For more than a
Blanche
few,
Delpeuche
this dispute has become a
than
proxy for
sparkling day
broader
on
cultural
Sydney
and political
Harbour.
conflicts.
Bit of history here.
On board
This judgment is not
multi-million-dollar
written for
racing
people who have
yacht
made up their
Itchy
mind before
Well,
any
you've got the
evidence
great
was
helmsman
adduced
back
or
again.
are content
That's
to
right.
rest
We're
upon
actually not
preconceived
campaigning for the America's
opinions.
Cup right now,
It
but
is
we're
written
not
to
far
set
off it.
out
Is that
my
right, Bob?
factual findings
Anything
comprehensively
you say, John.
and explain my
Down
decision
there,
to
you're
the
the boss.
parties and to the open
No
and
one alive
fair-minded.
at the time will forget
To achieve
the
this
day
end,
Bob
and from the start of the case,
single-handedly
I've
won the
attempted to
America's
ensure
Cup
as transparent a
in
process as
1983.
possible.
Just
Conscious
came
that a
in,
trial conducted
crossed
in
in front
public,
of that
accessible
marvellous
to the
hacking
public,
jewel down the
and only
bottom.
upon
There you
evidence
go.
and submissions
Well,
made fully
not
available
quite
to the public,
single-handedly.
was
Good
the best
friend and
security
skipper
for
John
confidence of the
Bertrand
fair-minded
played
and the
a part too.
impartiality and
Never
efficiency
to be
of the
forgotten,
justice
Johnny.
system.
Yeah. And, of course, it gave me
An
the
astute
opportunity
observer
of
would have gleaned from the
saying,
trial that this
the most remembered
case
thing
is
I've
not
ever
as
said in my
straightforward
life.
as some commentary might suggest. In part, this is because the primary defence hinges on the truth of an allegation of sexual assault
Nothing is
behind
remembered
closed
like
doors.
what I
Only
said
one
at the
man
yacht
and
club
one
the next
woman know the
morning.
truth with
Did any
certitude.
boss have the temerity to
For an
sack a
impartial
worker, I
observer
wonder?
seeking to divine the
No, they wouldn't
truth,
have been going to
or
after
more
that, I think.
accurately ascertaining what most
Steering
likely
a ship
happened,
of state is
two
no
connected
easy feat,
obstacles
as we've
emerged.
seen with the recent
The first
succession of
is,
prime
at
ministers
bottom, this
whose
is a credit
careers
case
have
involving
foundered.
two people who are both, in different
In
ways,
retrospect,
unreliable
Bob's
historians.
was a golden age.
Countless scholarly articles have
Possibly
been
the
written
most
seeking
popular
to
Prime
explain the
Minister in
frailties of
Australian
human
history.
memory and why it is that different
We
people
elected
may
him
remember the
4
same
times
event in
as
different
he healed
ways.
the division of the
People
Fraser
give
years,
unreliable evidence
was
for
through
various
landmark
reasons, and
economic
distinguishing
and
between a false
industrial
memory and a lie
relations
can often be difficult.
No longer
Aspects of
content
so-called
to be
witness
the lucky
demeanour
country,
or physiological
Australia must
signs of
become
deceit
the
are of
clever
little
country.
use unless the witness is cognitively aware of their
Kind
deception.
of charismatic leadership
Recognising
Bob
these
believes
realities, judges
is now
are
missing
reluctant to
across
characterise
the
a false
Western world.
representation as a lie
this,
unless another
terrible
explanation
situation.
is
We just,
unavailable,
for the
and
first
it is
time since the
necessary to
Second
do
World
so
War,
in order
there's
to
not
resolve
one
a controversy.
outstanding leader anywhere
But as
in
we
the
will
world.
see, this is a case
And
where
at the
credit
time
findings are
when
central
we needed
and
more than we
sometimes
had
an
before.
explanation other than
but Trump,
mendacity
how
is
would
not
you deal
rationally
with it
available.
Were you Prime Minister today?
I think we should hold our hand
To
out
remark
Trump
that Mr Lerman is a
and
poor
say,
witness
you've
is an
been elected,
exercise
we
in
accept that
understatement.
fact.
As I'll explain,
And
his
we
attachment
want
to the truth was a
talk
tenuous
cooperatively
one,
with you.
informed not
Now,
by
I encourage
faithfulness to
all
his
leaders
affirmation,
of all countries
but
around the
by
world to do
fashioning
that.
his responses in
Because
what he
this is
perceived
the
to be his
fact of
forensic
life.
interests.
And if he
Ms.
is
Brittany Higgins,
isolated,
Mr Lerman's accuser, was also an
by
unsatisfactory
definition,
witness
he's going
who
to
made some
rely on his
allegations that
own
made her a heroine to one group of
attitudes,
partisans,
resources and
but when
ideas.
examined
This
forensically
is
have
not a
undermined her
very
general
promising
credibility
thing
to
for
a
the rest of the
disinterested
world.
fact finder.
At 87,
The second and
Bob
related
is
obstacle is the
philosophical
assertion
about the pain of
that
being
what went on
deposed by
between these
Deputy
two young and
Paul
relatively
Keating in
immature staffers led to
1991,
much more.
because it
By
finally
early
freed
2021,
him to
allegations
pursue
of
the
wrongdoing
one
had
simple
burgeoned
thing
far
that
beyond
makes
sexual
the
assault.
world go round.
It was said a sexual assault victim had been forced by malefactors to choose
Love
between her
for a
career
woman
and
he
justice.
first met more than
The
20
perceived
years
need to
earlier.
expose misconduct and the institutional
Journalist,
factors that
writer,
allowed it
and
meant the rape
Blanche
allegation was not
Delpeuche.
pursued in an orthodox way through the criminal justice system, which provides for complainant
You met
anonymity.
him, I think, in Indonesia.
As we will
Yes.
see, when
Party.
examined properly and
Did
without
he strike you as
partiality,
someone special?
the cover-up allegation
Absolutely.
was
Married to someone
objectively
else
short on
entirely
facts,
different.
but long on
Yes, I
speculation
had
and
no idea
internal
who he was. I thought his
inconsistencies.
name was Robin.
Trying to
And-
particularise it during the evidence was like trying to grab a
but
column of smoke.
We sat down together
But
on one
despite
of
its
those
logical and
swinging
evidentiary
chair
flaws,
things
Miss Higgins' boyfriend
and
selected
talked
and
for
then
about 2
contacted
hours,
2 journalists, and then
he
Miss Higgins
was
advanced
just
her account to
such an
them and through them to
interesting
others.
man. He was
From
a
the
man of
first
very
moment,
good
the cover-up
character. I
component
perceived
was
that
promoted and
immediately.
recognised as the most important
What did
part
you
of the
think about
narrative.
this then?
The various
Still,
controversies
but
traceable to its
stunning young
publication
woman.
resulted in the legal
Oh, my
challenge
God.
of determining what
that was the
happened
beginning
late
of,
one night in
an
2019, becoming
Yeah,
much more difficult than
bang.
otherwise would be the case.
Despite Bob's renowned womanizing,
The substance of each
it
matter
was
is
his
relatively
infatuation with
identical, and
Blanche.
Mr.
Many
Lerman says the
blamed for
project
breakdown
program in
of
its
his
natural and
marriage
ordinary
to
meaning
first
was
wife
defamatory
Casey.
of him and
Blanche,
carried the
you were
imputations
betrayed at the time
carried
of the
imputations
scandal.
to the effect he
Yes.
raped Brittany Higgins in Defence Minister
fact,
Lionel
nothing could be
Reynolds' office in
The
2019.
fact that I was a
Network 10
writer
and
with
Ms
a
Wilkinson
career
deny the matters concerned
and
Mr.
an
Lerman,
international career
but
was
if they
simply
did, they admit
airbrushed
the
out of
pleaded
the picture,
imputations were
and I was
conveyed and are
portrayed
defamatory of
as
him.
Bob's
I have no doubt Mr.
much
Lerman was
younger
identified, and
trophy
hence
wife.
subject to the respondents
How
making out
shocking he's
any
had an affair
defences,
with
he
this
would be
woman.
entitled to
She
judgment.
came to a relationship
But in
with
considering
you,
these
knowing you had
defences,
many
I
other
first need to find
relationships.
facts.
Indeed.
Like you counted how many?
The
Hundreds.
judgment in section E sets out
I bet you would
a number of
Book experience.
legal propositions
All Bob's
and
affairs.
principles
It was his romance
by which
with
I set
Blanche
out the approach
that
to
captured his
fact-finding,
heart
onus and the standard
captivated
of
the
proof.
nation
I will
when they
merely
wed
mention
in
3.
1995.
This case is to be decided on the balance of probabilities. This is often
Younger man
misunderstood.
in a much different
It does
time.
not mean a
I
simple
interviewed
estimate
the
of
couple
probabilities.
and,
It
in
requires a
retrospect,
subjective
clumsily,
belief in the
perhaps,
state of
put the
facts on
question
behalf of the
about
tribunal of fact.
controversial transition
When the
from
law
Hazel
requires
to
proof of
Blanche.
any fact, the tribunal of fact must feel an actual persuasion of its occurrence or existence before it can be found, and a mere mechanical comparison of probabilities independent of
Well, you'll have
reasonable
to put up with
satisfaction will
being
not
accused of
justify
pussyfooting.
a finding of fact.
Because you won't tell us.
This means the alleged rape will
I
not be
must say
proven
now,
unless
with
I
the
feel an actual
experience and years
persuasion of
upon
its
me,
occurrence.
I wouldn't ask
But having
when
said
it
this,
began,
the
but
difference
rather
between the
how
criminal
long
and
it
civil
will
standard
last.
of proof is substantive
Well,
and can be decisive in dealing with the same underlying
That's what I
allegation.
wanted to hear.
I think
Apart from anything else, the difference is evident from the necessity that in a criminal trial, the facts as established must be such as to exclude
And
all
so
reasonable
to sport.
hypotheses consistent with innocence.
Nice shot.
Secondly,
Coloured drive.
this is a case where there is a very
So
large
learn
record of what
Sydney
occurred
cricket ground
in
this
real
summer.
time. In addition to the file notes,
Bob
text, social
loves
media
cricket.
messages and emails, hours of audio, video, CCTV footage has been adduced into
Loves
evidence.
Bob.
I have viewed this contemporaneous material and, from my manifold scenes, have listened or watched all of the audio-visual records in evidence. I have trudged unyieldingly through this material
mob
because insofar
loved
as it
him.
casts
It was as
light
if he just
on the
opened
relevant
for
issues,
Australia.
these contemporaneous records are a far surer guide as to
well,
what
it's
happened
happened
than
before
ex post
quite a
facto
few times,
accounts
so-
or rationalisations or unverifiable assertions as to what people felt. Thirdly, moreover, in assessing whether one has reached a state of reasonable satisfaction in making a
sentimental and
finding of
stupid about it,
fact,
you know, I
it
really
is
love the
jejune
Australian
to
people.
proceed on the
There's a
basis that
genuine
rejecting
rapport
part of an
between us
account of a
and,
witness of an
the
event
concept of
must mean
making
one
them
must
spelling
reject
a bit
all
seems to
aspects
feel-
of the account of the witness.
Judging by the
Consistently
crowd's
with
approval,
ordinary human
few will
experiences,
resent
some
the
witnesses may
luxurious life
misremember or
our
lie
oldest
about
living
some things
former Prime
and yet
Minister
tell the truth
now
about others.
enjoys in his
Despite
woodfront
my
mansion
concerns about
on
the
Sydney's
truthfulness of both
exclusive
Mr.
Middle
Lerman and
Harbour.
Miss Higgins, it would be simplistic to proceed on the
You've done that
basis
before.
this means I must reject everything
It's
they
still
say.
a sporting life.
Before coming to the facts, it's still necessary to make
And
some
he still
observations
wants
given
to
the
win.
centrality of credit to the proceedings as to the central witnesses.
so fast.
In
Even
Section
the
F of my
fifth floor
judgment, I set
rooftop
out my
golf
general
is
assessment of the
fiercely
creditworthiness of the evidence given by a dozen out of a total of 33 witnesses who gave oral evidence.
What a shot.
I will
Now,
just
you haven't
mention-
lost it.
I'll just mention a few.
This
In another
lifestyle of
defamation
the rich
case,
and
I said
famous
that many experienced
doesn't end
judges have
there.
expressed the caution that any criticisms of a witness which go beyond the legitimate necessities of the occasion should be
From the
avoided.
rooftop,
Unnecessary
I make the
credit
journey
findings
by
should be
funicular
eschewed.
rail
Part
down
of this
to the
reticence reflects a body of
sparkling
research
shore.
casting doubt on the ability
Where
of
I
judges to
find
make accurate
Blanche and her
credibility
son
findings
Louis
based on demeanour.
catching dinner in the turquoise
But this is a
waters
case
of
where
Sydney
several of the
Harbour.
deficiencies were both patent and telling. Moreover, this is a case where credit, given the way it impacts upon the resolution of the
I
determinative
did a
issues in the
little
case,
fishing
requires
myself.
close
I
and
want you
especially
to tell
nuanced
me
examination.
one discrete
Mr.
piece
Lerman.
of information that you have learned.
I
Because
will
you
deal
live
later with the account given by Mr. Lerman as to why he went back to the ministerial suite on the fateful night.
Give me one thing.
I can make
Well,
observations as
Bob
to his
likes to
creditworthiness by
serenade
reference to
her,
other aspects of
and
his
he
evidence.
sings Zsa Zsa
Network 10
Gabor.
described Mr. Lerman as a fundamentally dishonest
Is it
man prepared
possible
to say or
that I
do
love you
anything
more
he
than
perceived to
straight
advance his interests.
Zaza Gabor,
Senior counsel for Ms. Wilkinson
Satan
described him as an
Pussy.
active and deliberate
But I
liar
love
and wondered aloud
you
whether Mr.
more.
Lerman is just a compulsive liar. Hyperbolic submission made about the lack of credit of a witness are
And it
not
arose
uncommon.
because just
Justice Beach
couple of
Jones
weeks ago,
recently in a
the front
speech
page
noted
of
a
the
judge should be
Australian,
reticent about accepting such submissions,
Zaza Gabor had
open
died, and
quotes,
there was
unless you really have to,
a lovely
close
little
quotes.
picture.
It's on your
But even
fridge.
taking
Yeah,
this
on our
wisdom
fridge
into
now.
account,
Lads,
this is one of those
dead
cases
ringer.
where expressing
And
criticism
so
is
I,
warranted.
sort of
But one
wrote
must
little
not be
songs,
simplistic.
which I sing to
A falsehood told by a witness will be especially serious if the maker is under a legal obligation to tell the truth.
think about
But irrespective of legal obligation, there are
When not
gradations of
composing
seriousness
love
of
songs,
untruths.
Bob works
An
hard,
untruthful
keeping
person
his
may
mind fit
just be
with
all
more
mouth and
testing
trousers,
pastimes.
or may be recklessly
Number
indifferent
one.
to the truth, or,
It's an
by way of
anagram
compulsion,
on our moon
finds it difficult to
Number
discern
one.
between what is true and untrue,
The best.
and finally and most culpably, may be someone who tells calculated, deliberate lies. I do not think that Mr. Lerman
He's
is a
done at
compulsive
least two
liar, and
cryptic
some of the
crosswords
untruths he
and
told
number
during his
puzzles
evidence may
every
sometimes
day
have been due to
since seeing Hazel
carelessness
succumb to
and
Alzheimer's
confusion.
in 2013.
But I am satisfied that in important
push-ups
respects he
for the
told
mind.
deliberate
Least as
lies.
important as physical
I would not
exercise.
accept anything he said
Hazel's
except where it amounted
death
to an admission,
makes us think of
accorded
one
with
of
the
the
inherent
prospects of
probabilities,
aging, and that
or was
is
corroborated by a
colloquially
contemporaneous
losing
document
our
or a witness
That's
whose
a
evidence
fear
I
that
accept.
we all have, isn't it?
Well, that's
Instances of
something
Mr.
that
Lerman's false
I
out-of-court statements or
will not happen to me.
unsatisfactory evidence are legion.
because
But I'll
I work on it now.
just
and,
indicate
I have an arrangement
the
with
following
Marks
few
that,
examples.
to
First, there
suddenly
was the
collapse
evidence
and I'll lose
denying
my
he
marbles
found
on
Ms. Higgins
what I can do
alluring
something
as of
about it.
March
So we're talking
2019.
about euthanasia.
As I will explain,
I
from
think
the
that's the
start,
word,
Mr.
for
Lerman
it,
thought
yeah.
that Miss Higgins was attractive.
And
This attraction
you
informed
would
a
agree
number
that
of
we
his
should be
later
the
actions.
skipper of our own destiny.
Moreover, his denial of this fact
I
was unwary as it
support
contradicted what he'd said on the
euthanasia
Spotlight
for
programme.
the
When confronted
very
by
ill.
this
But
inconsistency,
what
his
I
attempt
say
to
to
explain
Bob
it away
is,
by suggesting
I'm not
the
going
attraction he
to go
felt
to
for
jail.
Miss Higgins was just like the attraction I can feel to anyone
For
else in this
pushing you off
courtroom,
in-
irrespective
off the
of
end of
gender, was as
boat
disconcerting
jetty
as it
into the
was
water.
unconvincing.
Something wise, darling.
Secondly, and relatedly, Mr. Lerman initially gave evidence he had not met Miss Higgins prior to attending the Kingston Hotel on 2 March
Australians are not
2019 and
always
downplayed his
outwardly
awareness of
the
her.
most romantic of people. So
Thirdly, there
not
was the false
everyone
evidence
will
about
find
what
this
occurred
enduring
at the
love
dock
story
on 22
as
March
charming as I have.
2019. Going back
But
to the
I can
hierarchy of
report,
untruths
without
referred to
doubt,
at the beginning
Bob and
of
Blanche
these
are
remarks,
still
this was an
sincerely,
aspect of Mr. Lerman's
hopelessly,
evidence where
and
I am unsure
romantically
whether he
in
was
love.
being recklessly
I wonder if
indifferent to
we'll
the
do
truth
another interview in
or
another
was finding
20
it difficult to remember what was true or was confused or a combination of these things. Mr. Lerman must have known that
And
the
I never
relevant
know with Bob
CCT
whether he
footage
likes
would be
this
examined by
or
some
whether
with
he's
the
just
intensity that
tolerating
others analyse as sapruder film. Hence, even if one was willing to give false evidence, it was odd to dissemble as to these matters. There was an inevitability that the CCT footage would demonstrate A, he had purchased drinks from Miss Higgins and seemed to
Yes, well, all
consume
women
significant
married
quantities
to
of
me
alcohol.
As
B,
we all
his
know.
prior explanation for how he paid for
he
the
knew
drinks
he
would
found
not pass
someone
muster.
even more than
And C, he spent most of the evening
Yes.
with Miss Higgins. Even if one puts the best complexion on what occurred, it confirms that Mr. Lerman's evidence is unreliable. Fourth,